Hi everyone, my name is Alexandra Martinez. I am a developer advocate here at MuleSoft, and in today's video we are going to learn how to get started with the DataWeave extension for Visual Studio Code. The written tutorial version of this video was created by MuleSoft mentor Sonali Shah. Thank you so much for your contribution to this tutorial. Now let's get started. The first thing we're going to need is to install Visual Studio Code. But once we have it, let's go into the extensions button right here, click on it and search for DataWeave. Once you find it, you can just click on install and that's it. Now let's create a new DataWeave library project. If you go into View, Command Palette, you will be able to open this menu where you can select to create a new library project. You can also use Ctrl-Shift-N for Windows or Command-Shift-P for Mac. And now let's just select Create New Library Project. We will keep the organization ID that comes by default, but in the future, here is where you will add your own organization ID from Anypoint platform in order to deploy to Exchange. So let's leave it like that, press Enter. Now for the artifact ID, I'm going to use Standard Dates Formats Library because this is what we are going to create today. Press Enter. I am also going to leave the default version, which is 100 snapshot. Enter. And now for the project name, I am going to add standard date formats. Press Enter. And here you can just select whatever path you want to keep your library in. In my case, I'm going to use users Alexandra Martinez DWLives. Press Enter, and this will create your new library. Now, if you open source main DW, you will have a new file called mymodule.dw. And if you open source test DW, you will have another file called mymapping.dw. So in source main DW is where you want to keep all of your modules and all of the files that you want to share into the library. So people that will use your library are going to be able to see all of these files. But whatever you put in source test DW is only for testing, for your own testing, unit testing, any type of testing. That's why we have here our mapping. Because if you want to just test this out and create a mapping and see if it works, then you should put this in source test DW. Now I'm going to remove both files in order to create our own from scratch. All done. Now let's create a new module. You can go to source main DW, right click on it and select new file, or you can also use the previous command to open our palette. And now you can select create new module. The name of our file will be date format conversion and we can press enter. This will create a new file under source main DW, and here you can add your own custom code. Throughout this tutorial, we are going to keep getting code snippets from our written tutorial, which is in developer.mulesoft.com, and then we are going to paste them here to save some time. So now I am going to paste the code that I got from the developer tutorial, and this is our new function. We are under the date format conversion module, and our function is datetime conversion. This function has two different parameters, datetime, which is of the type datetime, and the datetime format, which is of the type string. What this does is that it will take the given datetime and it will format it with the given datetime format. Now you will also notice that there are some things that pop up here. We have generate DataWeave documentation and add unit tests. So let's click on the generate DataWeave documentation to see what this does. This generates all of the needed documentation in order to have a better documentation for this function. For example, the parameters, we have the datetime parameter and the datetime format parameter, and we can also see the types, which are datetime and string. I am going to copy and paste the documentation that we have in our developer tutorial, like this. And now you can see that we have added some examples, and I also gave a better description of this function. So you can personalize this however you prefer, and this will all appear in Exchange once we upload it in the next tutorial. Now let's save this, and we can also test if all of this code is actually working. So you can create a file under source test DW, or you can also run the command and select create new mapping. The name for this mapping is going to be date format conversion mapping. Press enter. And notice how this is created on the source main DW. This is because you can use this mapping and reuse it in your mule application later. But for now, because we just want to test, let's put it under source test DW. So now if I go back to the developer tutorial, I will paste here the code that I copied, and then we can try this out by selecting the Run Preview button located right here. As you can see, this opens a new tab or a new window with the output of this code right here. But the thing is that if we modify it, we need to run this button again in order to reflect what we changed from the script. But this can be fixed by right-clicking on the file and selecting DataWeave Enable Auto Preview. Once we do that, any changes that we do will be automatically reflected in the output without us having to run the preview once more. Now I'm just gonna select Disable Auto Preview, and then I am going to go back to our files and select the date format conversion that we already had. And now if you go into this part right here, remember that we also had the option to add unit tests. So let's click on that. And this will automatically create the date format conversion test under source test DW. Now, if I go back to my tutorial and I paste the unit test that we created, you will see that we have 3 different tests. And what we are doing is that we are taking the variable date, which is this date right here, and we are adding different formats to this date. And then at the end, we are saying that this must equal to a specific string. So this way we are testing different ways of using our same function and just verifying that it works as expected. Let's save this file. Once you save it, these arrows appear right here. So you can run each test by separate, or you can run the whole suite. Let's click on the first arrow to run the whole suite. Now we can see 5 out of 5 tests passed. And you can also see the green check marks right here to verify that all of the tests run correctly. And that's it for this tutorial. You learned how to install the DataWeave extension into Visual Studio Code, how to create a new library project, how to add a new custom module, how to generate documentation for your code, how to test your code with the live preview, and finally how to add unit tests for your code. Now keep posted for the next tutorial where we are going to learn about how to deploy this DataWeave library into Exchange and how to use the library from Exchange into a Mule application. See you on the next one!